Well, hello, friends. My name is Matt. I'm the youth and family pastor at Cornerstone Church in Marshfield, and I'm here today with your Cornerstone Connection, a daily devotional. So I want to take you right away to 1 Corinthians chapter 15. That's where I spent some time this morning, and as I read in there, something just totally hit me that I remember from my past that I want to share with you today. So let me begin, 1 Corinthians 15, verse 1, and I'm going to pause right after that, okay? Now, brothers, Paul is writing to the Corinthian church. Now, brothers, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, and on which you have taken your stand. Let me read that one more time. Now, brothers, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received, and on which you have taken your stand. So, when I read that this morning, I was reminded about a time I was in college, and I was walking with the Lord. I knew the Lord at the time, but I had just made a bad decision while I was in college and disappointed myself more than anybody. And I got on the phone with my mentor, a man who discipled me while I was in college. And I was just kind of pouring out my heart, my frustration, my disappointment, everything like that. And he said something to me that has forever stuck with me and that I have also used as I've mentored and counseled other people, students, adults, kids. And it's so profound and so important. And it comes out in 1 Corinthians 15. As I was laying out my bad decision and my disappointment, frustration, my mentor said to me, Matt, when was the last time you preached the gospel to yourself? And I stopped, and I don't know that I had an answer. You see, when I was in college, I was involved in a ministry in which evangelism was something we did on a regular basis. We shared the gospel with people all the time. And so for me, it was always the gospel was something that I shared with other people. So to have him ask me, when was the last time you preached it to yourself, seemed pretty abnormal. But it all made sense. He reminded me how important it is to remember that the gospel isn't just something that Christians are to share with those who don't believe, but the gospel is something that we are to share with ourselves and experience on a daily basis. And ever since that phone call, ever since that moment in which my mentor reminded me to share the gospel with myself and to experience the gospel on a daily basis, it's been something I've disciplined myself to do. To remind myself of the grace of God, to remind myself that I am saved not by works, but by grace through faith in Jesus Christ. And Paul, in 1 Corinthians 15, he's been covering a lot of ground on a lot of issues within their church. And I love as he gets to the end of this first letter that he writes to them in chapter 15, he just pauses. And he wants to go back to the matters of first importance, as he likes to call them. And he says, Now, brothers, I want to remind you of the gospel preached to you, which you received and on which you have taken your stand. And then he goes on. So, dear friend, perhaps this is for you today. Perhaps you need to hear the gospel again. You heard it long ago and it changed your life, but you haven't preached it to yourself again. You don't preach it to yourself enough and experience the new life that the gospel brings on a daily basis. Paul goes on in verse 2. He says, By this gospel you are saved, if you hold firmly to the word I preached to you. Otherwise, you have believed in vain. And here comes the gospel. For what I received, I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins, according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day, according to the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Peter, and then to the 12, and after that he appeared to more than 500 of the brothers at the same time, most of whom, as Paul is writing, are still living, though some have fallen asleep. Then he appeared to James, then to all the apostles, and then Paul closes with this in verse 8, and last of all, he appeared to me also as to one abnormally born. Paul pauses here in his letter to the Corinthians to bring them back to the most important truth, the truth of the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ that brings life for the first time to unbelievers, but it continues to renew us and give us life to those who have already come to saving faith and knowledge of Christ. So, dear friend, wherever you're at today, let me remind you of the gospel, that Jesus died for you, that you're saved by his grace through faith in Jesus Christ alone. There's nothing you can do to earn your salvation. He loves you, and He cares for you, and He showed that through Jesus. Have a great day, friends, and may the gospel beat in your heart and resonate and stay in your mind. Have a great day. We'll see you later on the Cornerstone Connection.